the athletics world is still coming to terms with the passing and the tragic passing of world record holder Agnes Tirop. The World Championship medalist and Olympian was found dead in Iten by police on Tuesday. I spoke to a sports journalist and the press attache for the Kenyan Olympic team at the recent Tokyo Games, Elias Makori. Tirop ended fourth in the women's 5,000-meter final in Japan.
A huge shock. I mean, I didn't expect, this to happen to Agnes because, like you rightly mentioned, I was the press attaché for Team Kenya in Tokyo and handling media operations, guiding the athletes. I was with Agnes and took her through the mixed zone, the media interview areas, and we really spoke a lot. And it really came as a huge shock because at the Olympics, she was disappointed she didn't get onto the podium. She was fourth in the 5,000 meters. And she said, look here, next year we have the World Championships in Eugene. We have the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham. I must make sure I get that gold medal. And we could see that she was getting in good shape because just last month she broke the world 10K road race record in Germany, running 30 minutes and 1 second. That showed that she was getting her form back. And for the news to come through, it really hasn't sunk in yet until now.
Can you tell us a little bit about the kind of person that she was? Because this must be a heartbreaking time for you, especially considering how close you were to her.
Yeah, she was, if you look at all the photographs, if you look at all the videos, she always had a smile on her face. She was bubbly, cheerful, and, a very friendly person. A bit media shy, but we were working on that. We are trying to give her more exposure. And media handling journalists, and she did it quite well at the Olympic Games. After the semi-finals, when she qualified into the final, we had a great interview with her. But after the final, she didn't get onto the podium. She was a bit disappointed, and naturally, we could understand she didn't want to talk too much to the media. But she was that kind of competitive spirit, bubbly, jolly, and always with a smile anytime, whether during competition, before, after, and she was loved by many, both the athletes and the media. She came through very early. At the World Junior Championships in Barcelona, she was one of Kenya's stars. That's in 2012 and 2014 at the World Under 20 Championships in Eugene, the World Youth Championships again. She was one of the key members of the Kenyan team. But first major breakthrough really was in 2015 when she won the gold medal in the cross country at the World Championships, World Cross Country Championships in Guiyang, China. That really catapulted her onto fame. And then she got onto the track, a couple of bronze medals in 2017 at the World Championships in London in the 5,000 meters, and again another bronze in the 5,000 meters 2 years later in Doha in 2019. And, her last conversation was, she was saying, hey, look here, I have 2 bronze medals from the World Championships. And now the world champion, who is Helen Obiri, who won the last world title, has retired from the track. She's gone on to the road races. And now everybody was saying, hey, it's Agnes's time to be the front runner for the medal. So we were counting on her to go for the gold in Birmingham next year, the Commonwealth Games, and also at the World Championships in Eugene. So yeah, she was multi-talented, brilliant, winning that world title in 2015 in cross country. And on the track, definitely she was looking for the gold before, the natural progression onto the road, because, most of the Kenyan athletes, most of the global athletes, that's how their career pans out. You succeed in the cross country, and then you go onto the track, get a few medals, and then when you mature, you get onto the road, onto the half marathons and the marathons. At 25 years, she was, just starting out.
Can you tell us a little bit about her family? Because I understand that it was her dad that reported her missing when he couldn't get hold of her, and that's when the police went to the house.
Yeah, the Kenyan athletes normally leave their homes and go to the training camps, which are in areas that are conducive for training in the high altitude areas. And Iten, the town of Iten, is actually one of the best training locations for distance running in the world. Yes, of course, she left her home in Moiben, which is about maybe 80 kilometers from her training camp. They normally go to the camp for a week from Monday to Saturday. and then take the Sunday off, break on Sunday, go to their families, go to church, and then come back to camp on Monday for another week of training. So yeah, on Tuesday morning, the father reported that he hadn't seen the daughter or heard from her, and that's when the police. The reports we are getting from the police is that the alleged murderer or perpetrator of the crime actually called and confessed and said, I've committed a crime. And that's when they went to the house and broke into the house. It was locked, and they found her body there. So yeah, the man is still at large. The case is being handled by the police, and the athletes were inconsolable. All the world champions, the top world champions who live in Iten were there. We had Mary Keitany, the 3-time London Marathon champion, Joycelyn Chepkosgei, who just 2 weeks ago won the London Marathon, were there, and they were inconsolable. It's tragic, and really we've still not come to terms with what happened.
So let me understand, her husband actually phoned the police?
That's what the police told us yesterday, that the husband didn't phone the police, but phoned the family saying, I'm seeking forgiveness. I've committed a terrible crime. And then he hung up. And that's when they called the police and went to the home and found, the body.
And he's now on the run.
Yeah, he's at the moment he's on the run. I was talking to Athletics Kenya officials just before I got onto this call, and they say that still there's no confirmation of his arrest. But His Excellency the President Uhuru Kenyatta yesterday, while sending his message of condolences, ordered the police to make sure that the culprit is actually brought to book and justice is done. So I believe he's still on the run, but I don't think he'll run for too long, because people know him. The presidential order has been issued, and it's just a matter of time. So
Elias, is he obviously he was married to Agnes? Was he an athlete himself?
Not really an athlete of repute. Most of the Kenyan female athletes, you find, are married to training partners who help them in training. Quite a number are also married to competitive athletes, but this particular one was not really, an athlete, an elite athlete. But the reports that we get is that the relationship was troubled, and Agnes was going through a lot and, suffering in silence, which is a problem that many Kenyan female athletes, have. They don't speak out. I think it's also because of the cultural element that they're afraid of coming out, and we're really trying to see how this barrier can be brought down, because they really need to speak out. Otherwise, we see a lot of such incidents coming out, and it's not only the women, even the male athletes. As we speak today, one of the former world junior 10,000 meter silver medalists is being buried in his home in the Rift Valley. He committed suicide. He was found hanging by a rope. So definitely a lot of depression, mental ill health, and it's an issue that the federation, the government really needs to address, the mental health and the status of the athletes around the family settings.
People are still trying to come to terms with the death of Sammy Wanjiru.
Yeah, Sammy was a personal friend. I was with him in Beijing at the Olympics in 2008. I remember having a beer with him after he won the gold medal. Such a lively character, and we interacted a lot. And it's exactly 10 years, 2011, in May. That's when he passed on under tragic circumstances. People still have not come to terms 10 years later with that. And it's a question that I've really been asking and pushing. Apart from pushing these athletes to bring the medals to the country, really something needs to be done to look at their ecosystem, their mental health, the state of their families, because they face a lot of pressure, especially the female athletes. They get a lot of money. Most of their husbands, you find, are jobless, so they rely on them to bring in the income. And from what I've seen, is many of the female athletes actually run their husband's bank accounts. So they go out there, win the marathons, the money goes into the husband's account, and is the one who does what he wants to do with it. So it brings a lot of friction, and it's actually a lot of depressing stories that we get out there. And unfortunately, the women are afraid to talk.
A fascinating interview with the sports editor from Kenya of the Nation Group, Elias Makori.